What makes writing a thriller fun?
I think maybe knowing that it's not real, that you get to write, murders and most likely, stalking and some killing and things like that. But it's all just make believe. And I think not in a sort of a weird way. You have to think. How would these people think? What motivates them to reach this point that they're willing to kill someone or ruin somebody's life? And you really have to sort of dig down sometimes and really, find that motivation from them, from the characters. So, and then you get to, step away from it all. Yeah. I think the same thing is a lot of things with writing and acting is sort of experience things that you don't get to in real life,
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
What are the first steps you take when writing a thriller?
Well, with a thriller, there's always going to be a villain. At least one, usually just one. So I really narrow in on that motivation of that character, because that's what's going to make the whole story believable. If people actually believe this person was willing to do this for this reason, and if that's justified, even if it's just to themselves, or is the audience going to buy that? And I really like to start there.
What are the big beats of a thriller?
Well, like any other story, we really need a setup, and we really need a very strong inciting incident. Why is this happening now? It used to be when I started writing them, we were okay seeing both sides of the story of the villain and the hero. But now a big beat is usually revealing the hero, or I'm sorry, big beat is usually revealing the villain and having a very strong midpoint where things really take a turn and move in the opposite direction. And we really need a very big climatic scene. It really needs to end in a big climax, with the villain and the hero. And of course, the hero wins. And well, I guess not always, but most likely. And then we do need a bit of a happy ending, usually for the hero, which is kind of ironic.
Right. And so if there wasn't those elements, then it would be like a horror movie, basically. So that's what's different.
Yeah, I think the main difference between a horror movie and a thriller is really motivation. Well, for certain characters, every case would be different. But I think with thrillers, you usually have someone doing something for a very strong reason that they believe is right. As to where maybe a horror movie, you might just have a crazy killer, a Jason or a Freddy, who's just a fake, psychopath. Yeah.
Right. How many acts do the thrillers that you write have to have?
Well, for TV movies, they prefer that to have 9 acts. And that's really set up for commercials, really, and viewing, type of viewing. Again, every company could be a little different. They might be a little more of a stickler on that. Other companies might just say, keep it as a 3-act and, we'll put in the commercials. But I find the 9-act structure sort of helpful. If you're a little bit off track, you can kind of find where you're at. Like, let me get these next 10 pages. Let me get these first 15 pages. And then it really kind of can be a guide as well.
Would you mind going into a little more detail about how you write a thriller from start to finish?
Well, for myself, I usually just get a general idea. I take that idea and expand it a little bit. I then like to look at the beginning, middle, and end. And then I like to add the supporting characters. And you kind of look at it as building blocks of building the whole thing out. With the thrillers, you're going to need some thriller beats that are scary, that let you know something's wrong, that somebody's in trouble. You definitely need somebody to die, or the threat of death at many points throughout the story. So you kind of got to fit those in, and then I kind of fill it all out all around that, and then you kind of add the technical aspects once you get that story down, of the acts, or certain arcs of the 9-act structure, or the formula that you kind of have to work in, and then you kind of fill it out.
Is there a sort of a golden rule for endings of thrillers that are going to be for some of these networks?
A golden rule would be that the protagonist, the hero, survives and defeats the villain, yes, and they ends up happy with a happy ending, or as happy as they can be.
Okay, great. Is there also sort of a turning point where maybe sort of a white knight character then is revealed as sinister, but that's where it sort of throws us off?
Yeah, I think sometimes these trends change when they want that. How many red herrings you want throughout the story to throw the audience off track. I've had scripts where we know right away who the thriller is, or I've had scripts where we know like right away that we know who the villain is, and then we track both sides. But a general rule now is sort of somewhere late in the, around page 70 or so, you're going to really reveal who it is, and then it's on. Like the threat is very, very real, and that's going to play out through the end of the movie.
Do you mind giving us examples of how you've created suspense in one of your recent thrillers?
I think a lot of it is the audience knows that something is wrong and that something bad can happen to this hero. So we really need to establish that the threat is very real. And so in the previous scenes, we need to know that this is real. This person's life is at stake. And then that will kind of build the tension throughout of whether they know who it is, where it's coming from, or if it's the wrong person they're suspecting or not, if it's the red herring. It's going to create suspense overall as long as they believe that it's going to happen.
You had talked about 90s thrillers, and it just popped into my mind actually going to see Sleeping with the Enemy in the movie theater.
Yeah.
And in that moment where he finds out that she took swimming lessons.
Yeah.
And you see the look in his eye. And we already know kind of, who the bad guy is, but we don't know what exactly is going to happen. So that's sort of that turning point where...
Yeah, those big reveals, a lot of times, maybe not the reveal of the villain, but maybe, a big midpoint of the movie could be, a huge clue.
Right.
That then you have the next 20 pages of suspicion about that person until it is revealed.
Can you give us some examples of how you've built suspense with some of your thrillers? And I believe you have a new film, it's entitled Celebrity Nanny?
The Secrets of a Celebrity Nanny, yeah. So like in that film, for example, we as the audience, might know something's wrong or, but it's really when the new nanny, discovers that the old nanny has been killed mysteriously and, disappeared. That then, of course, gives our audience, heightens the stakes, heightens the reality of the threat, and then, of course, creates some suspense.
Right, and I don't know if I'm giving away spoilers here, and stop me if I am, how soon into the screenplay does the new nanny realize that something's very wrong?
Well, I think that should be in around the first act. We really need to know that there's something awry here. There's a reason that our hero is suspicious, or a reason that the audience is feeling something could go wrong.
You had a couple cheerleading ones too. One where there was a mysterious death of a coach or like a cheer captain or something. It's the same type of thing. Yeah. At what point are we realizing we're not in Kansas anymore and there's some problems?
Well, I think it can vary, but for example, in that story, once you realize that, and it's sort of a common trope, is when someone discovers that the villain has killed before, for example, and that's usually a huge discovery, later in the film. They've suspected this villain, and then there's a big discovery that, they've possibly killed before, or in their mind they have killed before. Again, then that really drives the story forward and the suspicion forward and the suspense of, because we don't know for sure, but if we think they killed somebody before, then we know they're capable of it.
How important are ticking clocks in thrillers?
I think, if it lends itself to the story, it's very important. It heightens, stakes. Let's say, for example, a very common story would be, someone being kidnapped, and you have you have 48 hours. Well, if someone's kidnapped and you have however long you want to find them, then there's no real threat. So I think establishing that over a threat is very important.